Recently, I've been making a lot of level-by-level episodes focused on Mario 64. We've already covered Wet Dry World, Rainbow Ride, Jolly Roger Bay, Dire Docks, Cool Cool Mountain, and Snowman's Land. For those last 4 courses, we covered them in special comparison episodes due to sharing similar themes with one another. Now, I thought these would be the only direct comparison episodes I do. I mean, it doesn't really make sense to compare Lethal Lava Land to TikTok Clock. However, on the latest episode, I got a suggestion to make a video covering all the Bowser stages, and I thought, hey, that's a pretty cool idea. But as I was thinking about it more, I realized there are only 6 other bonus stages on top of those, so why not just cover all 9 of them in one video? Welcome to another episode of Level by Level. Today we're going to be seeing which bonus stage I think is the best, and more importantly the worst. We love hating here. Now, bonus stages do work differently than the normal courses. While those each have 7 stars, most of these only have 1 star in addition to a secondary objective. That means it'll be a lot faster to cover each of them, and to go with that, we're going to be structuring this video a little bit differently. We're just going to cover every aspect about each level at once instead of bouncing between the different stages. We'll also be putting them into their own bonus level tier list as we go, since it doesn't really make sense to rank them with the normal levels. We'll be going in rough chronological order here. Technically, you could do these in any order, but just because you're weird and do Bowser in the Sky before the slide doesn't mean most people do. So with that being said, if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel, and let's jump right in. I'd say the first bonus level most people will find is Princess Peach's Secret Slide. It's located behind this 1-star door in the castle, which may seem empty at first, but if we break through the right window, we can get inside. Now, funnily enough, we're actually starting with probably the most unique bonus stage of the bunch. I'd say these bonus levels fall into 3 different categories. First are the 3 Bowser stages, then the 3 Cap stages, and finally there's an other category, which this slide falls into. What makes this more unique than the other levels is that this is the only bonus stage to not only have 2 stars, but not have any stars tied to red coins. And looking at the layout of the stage, it makes perfect sense why that is. As the name suggests, this entire bonus level is a big slide. On top of that, it's a very slippery slide, so good luck trying to climb it looking for red coins. Well, there's no need to worry about that because our only objectives here revolve around surviving and getting to the bottom. For the first star, you'll simply need to just reach the bottom, but the second star requires you to beat the whole stage in under 21 seconds. Now, because of how Mario 64 works, even if you beat it within that time frame the first time around, you still have to do the whole slide twice since it'll kick you out after collecting 1 star. That is honestly kind of annoying and I think worth noting as a significant flaw. But is the slide itself at least fun to go down? Well, I'd say yes it is. It starts very simple with a long completely encased tunnel before suddenly dropping the walls and ceiling to reveal a large open slide over the void. Also, just because I haven't mentioned it yet, the aesthetic here is pretty nice and very unique. It's got this cool orange color scheme unlike anything else in the game, and it contrasts really well with the ominous dark void below. Anyway, back to the actual gameplay. Once the big walls drop, there are still some short guardrails which are able to ease you into the lack of any safety for this big turn. That's honestly pretty scary, and I'm sure a lot of people have fallen off here. Speaking of falling off though, you can actually use that to your advantage here. Since this is a slide, the ending is obviously lower down than the start, so you can actually jump off the slide near the top and land near the finish, saving a ton of time. This is very tricky to do since you can't see where to go with the camera, but I really appreciate the option being here to make repeat playthroughs more fun, especially considering the stage forces a repeat playthrough with its 2 stars. Anyway, after a bit of a bumpy straightaway, the guardrails are put back up for these windy turns. While this does make the level much safer, it's still a challenge to get through these turns fast enough. If you go down the slide normally, completing it in under 21 seconds is honestly somewhat difficult, so having these windy turns near the end makes sense as a final challenge. I also really like how the slide ends with a somewhat long straightaway. It really adds suspension to if you'll make the target time. But yeah, I think the secret slide was pretty fun. Sure, it does have the annoying double playthrough mechanic, but otherwise I enjoyed my time here. Gonna put this as a very solid A tier. Oh yeah, and to end off each of these, we'll mention the song, and I think to the surprise of no one, the slide theme fits pretty perfectly here. But be ready to hear this song a lot. Okay, that was a bit of a long one to start us out with. Why don't we transition to probably the shortest bonus level, the aquarium. To get to this level, you have to go to the room with Jolly Roger Bay and take a look at this wall. You may notice that there's a few holes punched into it, and entering into the left one forces Mario to drown. Luckily, there is still a way out of this predicament. Inside this cube of water, there are 8 red coins, 1 in each of the corners and 1 near each of the windows. By the way, I really like how the windows look with the colored glass. It helps make the aesthetic here a little less bland. Unfortunately, cannot say the same for this star. There are absolutely 0 obstacles in your way, so it's just an incredibly boring swim to each of the red coins before getting the star. I mean, even ignoring the fact that I don't like water levels in this game, this is such a boring mission. Pretty much 0 thought went into this, and while it's not annoying to collect, it's certainly not interesting. Easy F tier. There's really no other choice for the worst bonus level. At least I do like the Jolly Roger Bay theme playing here. But that brings us to the first stage of the Bowser category, Bowser in the Dark World. Now, technically calling the Bowser levels bonus courses is a bit inaccurate since they're all required to beat the game, but also shut up, nerd. All 3 in this category are platforming-centric linear levels to lead up to the Bowser fight with 8 red coins placed along the way. First up, I really love the aesthetic here. The unique dark green background really adds some good atmosphere leading up to the first confrontation. When you enter the level, Bowser will say, "Wahaha, you have stepped right into my trap just as I knew you would. I warn you, friend, watch your step." Very nice of Bowser to care about Mario's safety. One thing I always always thought was kind of weird is the fact that there's a metal cap here. Not only do you not have it since the metal cap switch is in the basement, but I feel like it's barely helpful. At best, you can use it to collect the stage's first red coin near this burner. You have to activate a switch and then carefully move onto the block it spawned over the void. I think that's a pretty solid challenge, though I did sort of lie about that being the first coin. Hitting the switch spawns a block at the start too, leading to another coin. Honestly, I think that one is kinda dumb. There's no good tell that it's there, so I'm sure a lot of people likely missed it. Continuing through the course, we have to survive through several obstacles like these moving platforms, another burner, spinning platforms, and even a few Goombas. How horrifying. I really like how this is laid out, as if you're skilled enough, you can actually jump up this slope to save a bit of time. Then we get to one of my favorite portions, the amp pathway. It's not too hard, but I really like the look of the gems poking out of the green ground here. After that, we've got a few more types of moving platforms to jump between, giving us more unique challenges while collecting the red coins. I also like this hidden circular platform with another coin. There is a bridge connected to it, but that's for cowards. Long jumps are way more fun. But that brings us to the final set of platforms, the seesaws. They're fairly easy to jump between, but you need to use them to reach the higher up platforms for a red coin. Make sure to also grab the final red coin on this tiny platform off to the side. If you manage to survive all of that, you just have to get past a few more Goombas and a wonky staircase to get to the star. I think overall the red coins were hidden really well here. The first one is a bit annoying, but otherwise these work great to make the platforming more challenging. But of course that's not the end of the level, as we still have to enter the pipe and face off against the main man himself. Being the first of 3 fights, this is obviously the easiest, but it's still a fun one. To defeat Bowser, you'll need to pick him up by the tail and throw him into one of the bombs around the arena. I really like how this builds upon the pick up and throw gimmick from the game's first star against King Bob. Now I have personally always had trouble timing my throw with the spin, but luckily the bombs are close enough to the arena here where we can slowly inch Bowser really close to them instead of throwing him. But no matter how you do it, whenever you get him once, that's the end of the fight, giving you the key to enter into the castle's basement. Overall, this was a great first Bowser level. It's got a fantastic aesthetic mixed with a pretty fun layout and boss. I see no reason to not put this up in S tier. Also, the music of this level is easily my favorite of the bunch today. It is so good. The Bowser boss battle theme is also fantastic as well. Before we move on to the basement, there's still one more ground level bonus stage I want to talk about. After collecting 10 stars, you'll notice a giant light beaming down from the ceiling. Obviously the lobby wasn't like this before, so out of curiosity, you might try and stare directly into the light. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend doing that. But luckily in this case it's a good thing, as it'll lead you right to our first cap bonus level, Tower of the Wing Cap. When we spawn in, we already have a wing cap, and while we could just fly directly down onto the switch, we'll probably want to collect the 8 red coins first. They're placed in 4 rings surrounding the tower. Now upon hearing that, you may think this would just be another aquarium situation, but no, this is much more difficult due to the use of the wing cap. It can be hard to get used to the controls, so it makes this fairly challenging. Luckily the rings are laid out in a fairly solid path, but if you miss even a single coin, this turns into a nightmare. Trying to swing back around to get a tiny coin is a massive pain, especially if you missed one of the first few rings, since they're much higher up than the last few. Of all the stars in this video, I think this is the one that gave me the most challenge growing up. I do think this works pretty well as a wing cap tutorial though. It gives us a nice open space to get used to the controls with a clear and obvious objective as well. That's important because once you get all the coins, you can activate the switch in the center to unlock the wing cap throughout the game. So for that, I think this course deserves a B tier. Also, this uses the slide theme again, but you'll mostly be hearing the wing cap theme instead, which I've always liked. Due to us going chronologically here, we've actually ended up getting all 3 cap stages in a row. So moving right along, we got Vanish Cap under the moat. To get to it, we have to go through a tunnel full of water in the basement, which eventually brings us to 2 stone pillars. While it may not seem clear what to do at first, you may eventually stumble upon the solution of ground pounding onto these, which actually drains most of the water from this room. Not only that, it also drains water from the moat outside of the castle as well. Rest in peace to all the fish. If we explore around down here, we'll eventually find a hole in the moat, which brings us into the stage. We start at the top of this massive slope with several platforms wedged into it. 4 of those platforms contain some of the stage's red coins, so you'll need to collect them on the way down. Unfortunately, due to how the camera is set up, you can't really see which platforms have the coins, and if you missed a single one, you basically have to restart. I mean, you can kick up the slide, but that takes forever. Once you get down to the bottom, you're faced with a ton of fire spinners on a skiddy pathway, which you'll need to move past to continue through the stage. Getting caught on fire can be especially dangerous here, as it'll cause Mario to run around wildly, possibly even off the edge. Continuing on up, you have to go past a seesaw and a few more enemies before making it to the stage's most challenging section. Here there are several platforms over the void, and due to how they move, they can be very tricky to jump between. That's especially the case if you try and collect all 3 red coins here. I do like the challenge, it makes the star far more interesting. Once you reach the end of these platforms, you can collect the last coin and then activate the Vanish Cap switch. Wait, what did any of that have to do with the Vanish Cap? Yeah, while Tower of the Wing Cap acted as a very solid tutorial for the power-up, this has almost nothing to do with its own. You do start the stage with it equipped, but you're very likely to lose it by the time you reach the bottom of the big slope. The only real Vanish Cap ability shown here is the fact that you can go through a cage to get the star in the end, but it's really weird that this isn't the focus of the level. So I honestly think this deserves a C tier. It's got a pretty bad start, a very weird aesthetic, and a lack of connection to its power-up. What's saving it is the fact that I do like the platforming challenge at the end, but otherwise, this is pretty weak. Speaking of, while I do like the songs used here, I don't think they fit here at all. The wing cap theme never really matched the Vanish Cap to me, and the slide theme does not fit this weird and dark underground area. But that leaves us with just one more cap stage. How does Cavern in the Metal Cap compare to the rest? Well, right out of the gate, the way you find this is different from any other bonus level, as you actually have to find it within a main level, Hazy Maze Cave. Due to that being structured like a maze with a ton of different paths, hiding a whole bonus level inside is honestly kind of fitting. Jumping into this metallic pool will bring Mario into this stage, instantly transforming him into Metal Mario. Now, due to being in Hazy Maze Cave, this area has a very similar aesthetic. Luckily, I think that's a pretty good look, and the added metal crystals actually do a great job giving this its own feel. Also, I think the stage does a phenomenal job showing what the Metal Cap can do. Right away, you're thrown face to face with several snippets, but they don't pose a threat due to Metal Mario's invincibility. Getting out of this tunnel also reveals a very strong river current leading us to the outside. Don't worry though, as this level also shows how Metal Mario can resist not only the flow of the stream, but also the water in general, as he'll sink right to the bottom. That's especially important in this level because getting pushed outside will completely kick you out of the stage. As you go through here, you'll find 2 red coins in this alcove and 2 more next to the metal cap switch. But where are the other 4? Well, just in case you tried to avoid it, the other 4 are placed in the water around the switch. It feels great to grab all of these, especially since the stage is perfectly sized so that the metal cap ability will be running out by the time you try and collect all of these. So overall, while this was a much shorter stage than Vanish Cap, I think this is so much better. It shows off the main reasons to use the metal cap in a quick but fun way. So for that, I have no problem throwing this at the top of A tier. Also, the metal cap theme is of course a banger, plus the Hazy Maze Cave theme fits perfectly once the power-up runs out as well. To wrap up the basement, we've got Bowser stage number 2 with Bowser in the Fire Sea. Right out of the gate, I do want to say, it's got the lamest aesthetic of the 3. Yes, it makes sense for at least one Bowser stage to be tied to lava, but it honestly just makes this come off as a lesser lethal lava land. Well, you start by having to ride a moving platform, which I would normally find quite boring, but luckily you can actually just skip it by jumping between platforms scattered in the lava, and I greatly appreciate that. Once you reach the other side, you then have to brave these platforms sinking into the lava. If you make it across, there's also a bully over there, really not beating the lethal lava land allegations. The first red coin can also be found on this weird grate thing over the lava. After that, we get the introduction to these platforms that sink into the lava with a pole on top, which aren't the most interesting obstacles, but they will come back into play later. Once you climb up to this next set of platforms, you can grab red coin too. But watch out, you got baited to one side and now the platform will slowly tilt. Oh no! Yeah, anyway, then you get to climb up a pole into a cage where you can find another red coin. To exit this area, you need to take an elevator, but before riding it up, you may notice another red coin sneaking down below it, which I honestly think is a pretty clever spot. The elevator by itself is also fun because I remember using it all the time to backwards long jump on. Once you get up to the next layer, you've got to run past a ton of miscellaneous obstacles like burners, hangable ceilings, moving platforms, and even a bully guarding a red coin. Once you reach the other side, we have probably the main element of this level that I don't like. You'll find this weird purple and yellow platform that slowly shrinks and stretches out. In order to move on with the level, you have to wait for it to stretch out. Unfortunately though, there is absolutely nothing interesting here, which just makes this drag down the level's pace for absolutely no reason. Yeah, there is a red coin, but it too just involves waiting for the platform to stretch up. I think this was a super unnecessary addition. But once you follow this gray path, we finally made it to the last layer of this stage. To get through here, you have to go across a long stretch of sinking platforms mixed with burners, and then jump between several of the sinking pole platforms. I think that's all a pretty good evolution of the ideas presented at the start of the level. There are also the last 2 red coins here, which aren't too difficult to grab. Once again, I think the start itself was pretty good, probably on the same level as Bowser in the Dark World. But what about the boss fight here? Well, it's in a very similar boat to the Dark World fight, but Bowser's gained a few new abilities. Now he can not only jump to cause the arena to tilt like crazy, but he can also teleport? Okay. Just like last time, we only need to swing him into one bomb, and the boss fight comes to an end. So overall, I'd say this level is a bit weaker than Dark World. The aesthetic is worse, and there's a decent amount of waiting. However, the platforming is still mostly fun, and the boss is a bit improved. I think that still earns this level placing at the top of A tier. Oh, and the music is all the same from Dark World. But now we've reached the ceiling of the castle, which brings us to the 2 hardest bonus stages of them all. Unless you're baby me, that was Tower of the Wing Cap. The first of these 2 levels is the infamous Wing Mario over the Rainbow. To find this level, you need to enter the room containing Tick-Tock Clock and Rainbow Ride. With Rainbow Ride being located at the right of the room, Wing Mario over the Rainbow is in the same spot but at the left. Now that we've entered the stage, let me go ahead and get some compliments in first. I do really like the aesthetic. I've always been a fan of cloudy sky stages, and since Rainbow Ride decided to do, that with its aesthetic, I appreciate the addition of a traditional cloud level. But as for the actual objective, we've got to collect 8 red coins again, and as the name suggests, while using the wing cap. Like I said, the controls already make it a decent challenge, and now that we have to actually explore with it, things just got much harder. But the thing is about this stage, it's not just hard, it's evil. Normally when you fall off a stage, you just die, get kicked out, and then get to try again. But here, oh no, you're not just sent outside of the level, you're sent all the way outside of the castle. That means you have to walk all the way back up to the top floor between every single attempt. ground. That makes this stage so much more frustrating and terrifying, as you really do not want to waste that much time. Now luckily there are plenty of wing caps placed around this level, which means you shouldn't have to worry about it ever running out. There are also plenty of cannons to help you get around the level, which are especially necessary for the coins on higher up platforms. That does come with the very high risk of bonking though, which you definitely want to avoid if possible. As for where these coins are, the first two are pretty simple, being placed on the spawn platform and the next cloud down. The third coin is found on the first cannon platform and the fourth is on a nearby cloud. Now so far things have been pretty simple, but the other four coins are all placed much higher up, meaning you have to start using the cannons, being very careful not to bonk. 3 of the remaining coins are found on this highest up cloud, with 2 being on top and 1 being on the poles down below. It can be very scary trying to grab onto these, but I think they're a cool addition to change things up. The final coin is definitely the most interesting, as it's actually placed inside of a cloud, which you can luckily just fly through. But with that, the star is completed, and I honestly do think it's a pretty good wing cap challenge. The aesthetic is also great, so I think I honestly do quite like this. But man, that falling problem is really bad. It seriously holds the stage back so much and just makes it annoying to come back to. Had this just had a normal depth, I think people would actually find this star to be quite cool. But because of that, I think this is sadly going to be placed just up in B tier. At least the song fits well, being the same set used in Tower of the Wing Cap. But we finally made it to not only the final bonus level, but the final level of the game, Bowser in the Sky. With this being the final showdown, it's of course expected that the platforming here is going to be the hardest of the bunch. After making your way up the endless staircase, we can enter into the level, which has a really fantastic purple skybox. I also always found it really funny that you start on a massive arrow-shaped platform, like thanks, I had no clue where I was supposed to go. Right away we're getting some small jumps over the void, putting the danger front and center. What's also made obvious right away is just how much harder it'll be to find the red coins here. As the player moves up, they may be able to see a small shadow over this moving block, indicating that a coin is right on top. Using this pushable block, you'll be able to grab the coin just off screen, and I think that was a pretty solid hiding spot. After that, you have to run across this really weird tilting zigzag platform before running up a very steep slope. There are a lot of these in this level, and while they do feel very strange, I honestly kind of like them because of that, and it gives this stage a unique feel. Now it's time to face off against a ton of enemies like Goombas, an amp on the spinning platform, and even some piranha plants guarding red coin too. Speaking of red coins though, we're about to encounter one of the most evil red coins in the entire game. This next section has us jump between a seesaw and spinning wheel platform, but you may be able to see a floor placed below them. At first it just seems like a nice net to catch the player, however this contains a secret. While it may not seem like there's anything here, if you get really bored and start messing with the camera, you may be able to see a red coin hidden off to the side. Yeah, there's like zero indication that this could be hiding here, and I wouldn't be surprised if this coin alone caused thousands of people to not complete this star. But we've still got a lot of the stage to go here. Going back to the spinning platform, I like that we have the choice to get off at the top or continue on the lower route. Normally I just go up since it's purely a shortcut, but if you do go down, you'll have to face against a Womp and a Chuckya. The latter especially being scary due to how far you'll fall if you get grabbed. If you manage to survive, then you have to climb up a switch staircase before getting into some more extreme slopes. This time there are a few burners placed on them, so you'll want to be careful while climbing up. Also lucky for us, the fourth red coin is just placed out in the open for us. Isn't this stage so nice? Well, hold your horses because now we've got to ride a moving platform. Normally I don't love these since they're quite slow, but this doesn't last too long and it is kinda scary. There are several blocks placed in the way that you now have to jump over, and the scariest of which is this rotated block being placed high up. On top of it is a red coin, so you have to do your best to grab it without touching the slope, as if you do, it'll cause you to slide, possibly even off the stage. But if you're able to somehow make it past that, you then have to avoid a few bombs and go across 2 rotating platforms. The 6th red coin is here along with a few amps, which acts as a good transition up to the next layer of the level. You're pretty much in the home stretch now, as you just have to avoid a few enemies and grab the 7th coin placed on top of this pole. That brings you up to one final set of spinning platforms, which I think are good ways to end off the climb. Do be careful jumping off these guys though, they can be a little glitchy. But that finally brings us up to the pipe. There's a small windy section with these really nice pillars depicting the final battle, but we could just jump into the final Hey, wait a minute, where's the last red coin? Well, this is the second evil coin of the stage, requiring us to once again spam the camera around to find it. This time it's placed right under the stairs for the final boss pipe. In order to fully express how evil this coin is, I think Nathaniel Bandy put it best 12 years ago.
You know, that red coin is just thinking, haha, Mario is a total sucker and will never find me.
But with that, we can finally collect the last red coin and complete this star, and even if some coins were extremely stupid, I'd say I still enjoyed this overall. And with that, we get to enter the final boss fight of the entire game, and to this day, I think it might be the hardest boss in any 3D Mario game. The music is completely different from the times we fought Bowser before, signifying just how much more intense this battle will be. Bowser also gets all rainbowy, isn't that cool? For this fight, not only do we have to hit Bowser with the bomb, we have to do it 3 whole times. On top of that, as the fight goes on, the arena will start to fall apart, eventually leaving it in the shape of a star. That also means the bombs are much farther away from the platform on the final hit, so there's no inching your way towards the bomb this time. Whenever I come back to this fight, I always struggle at least a little bit, but I think that's what makes this a fantastic final boss. Once you finally manage to hit him with 3 bombs, the stage can come to a close. As you can probably tell by how much I talked about this, I think this is a pretty good final level. It's long and intense, just as you'd hope it'd be. While 2 of the red coins are kinda stupid, I don't think they're enough to bring this level down. I'm gonna be placing this up in S tier with the Dark World. Absolutely a phenomenal way to end us off. But anyways, that's it for this video. Do you hate Sniffits and thus hate me for liking the Cavern or the Metal Cap? Let me know in the comments. I'll be honest, was not expecting this video to be as long as it was. Luckily though, I'm still making good progress on the 200k special. Right now I'm expecting to release it around October, so hopefully you all will enjoy it when it drops. But anyways, dry bones for Smash, and I'll see you guys next time.